All right, I've started the recording, so that must mean that we're starting our webinar, and we are. Thank you for coming. I am Diane McKeever. I am the SCORE, Minnesota SCORE chairman of the Education Committee and a person who has been teaching Excel for over 30 years. So there's not too many questions that can stump me when we talk about Excel. So the topic today is 15 Excel mind-blowing tips. I hope you find them to be mind-blowing, but you'll let me know. I'm sure you'll let me know. I was reading the reviews from last week and some of you were pretty harsh. So I hope that you cut me a little more slack, or that you are a little bit more open-minded, or I don't know what the deal is, but welcome. And I hope that you will get a lot out of today's webinar. Before we get started, I have to do a little housekeeping, and that includes talking about SCORE. SCORE is a nonprofit organization that's an independent resource partner of the SBA. If you're looking for me as an employee of the SBA, I am not. I have never worked for the government. I've always been self-employed. SCORE is a organization that provides free confidential business mentoring to small and medium and large size businesses. We have our chapter, which is the Minnesota chapter serving Manatee and Sarasota counties. We have nearly 90 volunteers ready to help you with your business dilemmas. Our chapter was recently named Chapter of the Year. When can we help you? In what phase of your business? Well, pretty much all phases of your business. Are you just thinking about a business? That's a lot of our clients. They just kind of wake up one day, they've got an idea, whether it be an invention or a product or a service, and they want to explore whether or not this is a viable idea. We're happy to work you through that process. Or you've actually started and you realize that you don't know as much as you thought you did about everything and you need some help. We can help you there. Or you want to grow your business. Maybe you're having trouble with your social media. We can help you with that. Or lastly, you're selling or closing your business, or alternatively, you're thinking about buying a business. Please contact our team and we will be more than happy to help you. The website address is at the bottom of every slide in my presentation. Of course, this is not a slideshow that we're going to go through. It's very much a hands-on presentation. I would encourage you to visit our website, score.org/Minnesota. That's where you can go to request a mentor. There's a button that you can use. You can look at mentor profiles. The problem with mentor profiles is it only shows you the profiles of people who are accepting assignments on the internet. So it's better to actually go through request a mentor. You can check out our workshop calendar to see what's coming up. We have workshops just about every Wednesday, and I hope you take advantage of that. Or you can search on our website for templates and podcasts that have been recorded. Lastly, I'd like to thank our Minnesota sponsors. Mostly our sponsors are banks. And it is very true that if you come into these banks with a mentor on your arm, there's a good chance that they will listen to you much more than if you came in by yourself. They'll know that we've worked with you through the business plan and that you've thought through many of the questions. So think about getting a SCORE mentor if you're thinking about financing. And thank you to our community partners. So let's get started. Now you can see that already I changed the name of the presentation from 15 mind-blowing tips. I just kept writing more and more and more. So you're going to get a lot more than 15 mind-blowing tips. Some of them may not be so mind-blowing. Others will knock you off your socks. I have hit the record button, so I hope this is the last time I have to say this until later. But you're going to actually be getting 3 things in the email that you get either later today or probably tomorrow. You will be getting a copy of this video. You'll be getting a link to it, and you'll be able to review this video as many times as you want. Also, you will be getting a copy of these slides. Just to move on, you see that these slides are really talking about the topics that we're going to be talking about today, and then some. So you will be getting a copy of these slides. And the last thing that you will be getting is the file that I am actually working on. So having said that, let me stop my sharing, and I am going to share my Excel screen. Okay, so here is my Excel screen. Some people commented last week that I was distracted by the chat, so I'm actually not even going to look at the chat. I see that there have been some comments already, but I'm going to try and work around those for the moment. I don't want to be distracted by them. So this is the file that you're going to get. It's actually called Sample Files in One Workbook. So the first tip that I want to talk to you about is the fill handle. And the fill handle is something that makes it very easy to fill information in your worksheet. The fill handle has many functions to it. One thing that it can do, if we were putting together this little worksheet and we needed to have the months of the year, we could certainly go through and type January, February, and so forth, or we could just type the first month, if depending upon when your cycle is, whether it starts in July or it starts in April, you type in the first month of your series, and then you go to the fill handle. The fill handle is this little tiny corner, this little tiny square. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. It's this little tiny square in the corner of the active cell. And when you click on it, actually you don't click on it, you just move your mouse to it. And you can see that your mouse, instead of being the plus sign that we see most of the time, it turns into a cross. That four-headed arrow that you saw a moment ago, that does something different. So it turns into a cross. It looks a little bit different on a Macintosh, on an Apple machine, but it has the same functionality. If I hold down the mouse and drag, it is actually anticipating that it's dragging and filling in information. Do you see the little flag underneath this? It says April and May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So that when I release my mouse, it has automatically filled in the months of the year. Oh, we have somebody who actually, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay. Not seeing my mouse. Okay. Can not see what you're demonstrating. Can not see what you're doing. Can not see the moves. No mouse. Nope. 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 Can't see anything. We can't see anything. Just the original worksheet. Okay. Tell me, can you see how it has filled in here? How it has filled in? Please, if someone could answer that, can you see where it has filled in the months of the year? 9 new messages. Oh, 11 new messages. Okay, somebody's filling it. No, no, no. You see nothing. Okay. Can you see the months now? Now I can see it. Oh, okay, good. I'm going to undo that. All right. So let's get back. Okay, good, 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 good. Thank you. Thank you all. So what I was saying, and let me do this again, is that you type in the first month, whatever the month is, and then you move your mouse to the fill handle. Can you see the fill handle in the lower right corner? Yes, David, it's being recorded. In the fill handle, this is when I'm going to hold down the mouse button and drag. And as I drag to the right, do you see that it is now showing me that April would fill in if I release the mouse here? It always shows me what it is filling, which is really great because I don't have to count and figure out how many columns I need to go over to fill in through December. As I take the fill handle and release, it is filled in automatically for me. So that's one use of the fill handle. The fill handle is also used to fill formulas. So if I wanted to find out what the sum of these numbers is, let's say, I would go to my Home tab and I would click on Auto Sum, and it would put in a formula for me automatically based upon where I am. And I'm going to enter that. And now if I wanted actually all of this information perhaps is the same for all the months, I would be able to just take the fill handle and drag across, and it would fill that information. So instead of doing copy and paste, you see the value of this is instead of doing a copy and paste, I can just take the fill handle and take the mouse and fill that across. All right, so the fill handle is very handy for filling in series, and the months of the year is one series. Another series that you may be interested in is days of the week. So today is Wednesday. We'll put in WED, or I could spell out the entire word. If I only leave it at WED, when it fills, it's going to fill with the shortened name of the days of the week. If I put in the entire word Wednesday, it would fill in the entire spelled out word. So again, as you see, as I'm dragging, and you'll also notice that I don't just drag horizontally. I can do this vertically. If I drag my mouse down, again, it is previewing for me with that little tag what's going to fill. When I drag it down and release, it fills in the days of the week. I could have dragged this to the right, and it would have done that as well. So the fill handle now is able to fill in series like this and formulas. So the fill handle is actually one of the most powerful features in the program. And if you're not using the fill handle, I hope that you will consider doing that. Okay, I'm going to look at another sheet in the book. That sheet is the start sheet, and we may come back to this, we'll see. And I'd like to look at another sheet in the book. And this is a sheet that we had worked with last week. We're not going to work on it a great deal, but remember that we talked about auto fit column widths. And this is very important, that when we select the entire worksheet, and we can do that by clicking in the upper left corner above the number 1 and to the left of the letter A, when we click there, it selects the entire worksheet. Or alternatively, from your keyboard, you can hold down the control or the command key and type the letter A, and it will select all of your data. And then move your mouse to the vertical line that separates any of the columns. And let's do a nice little double click, and it should, and it should then make all of the columns the best fit. And you can see why that's important, because if you use the old dragging method, you might have said, well, this country field only needs to be this wide because that's the largest name, the longest name that I am aware of, that I could see at that moment. But further down, there is in fact a longer name, but by double clicking, it evaluates all of the data in the column, and it makes it the best fit. So best fit is your second tip. The fill handle is your first tip. I'm not going to be counting these all the way, but I want you to know that in the PowerPoint presentation that you will be getting a copy of, there are over 20 tips. So I don't know that I'm going to get to all of them today. Some of them towards the end are formulas, and I think I'd actually rather have a webinar that's just about formulas, because formulas are really the heartblood of Excel, but they also can be a little complicated. So I think I would do that. Okay, now you can see as we scroll on down, the first thing that I lose is these headings. I'm just going to format these headings a little bit so that makes them stand out a little bit more to you and as we're using them. It's important that you know how to freeze your panes so that when you're scrolling, you're actually able to see certain information automatically all the time. Now, there is, under the View tab, there is our freezing panes. And many of you perhaps are aware of this, freezing the top row. That would help in this case, or as an alternative or in addition, freezing the first column. So now we lost the top row, but we can see the first column as we scroll across. A better way of doing that is actually from the freezing panes, choosing the first option, which is freeze pane. As you can see, it says it keeps rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls, and that it's based on the current selection. I have selected cell C2. When I ask it to freeze panes, it's going to freeze above that active cell, and it's going to freeze to the left of the active cell. So when I choose freeze panes, now when I scroll down, my headings are frozen in place. And when I scroll across to the right, my headings are in place. Just as a little aside, and this PS is not in the PowerPoint presentation, so you might want to note this down. We have a very interesting feature on our mouse. I'm sure you're all aware of the mouse having two buttons. It has a left mouse button and a right mouse button. But did you know that in many programs, not all, but in many programs, the wheel also functions as a button? And it's particularly helpful, in my opinion, here in Excel. Now watch what I'm going to be doing. So doesn't matter where my mouse is on the worksheet, but I'm going to click my mouse, the wheel. I'm going to click the wheel. When I do so, I get a very strange icon on my screen. This is actually a navigation icon. As I move my mouse further away from this, my scrolling goes much faster. So it's part of the scrolling wheel, isn't it? And you might say, well, how does that help me more than the wheel itself? Well, the other thing that it does, let me go far away so I get up to the top. The other thing is if I move my mouse to the right of this area, this designated area, you can see that I can scroll to the right. I use this a lot in Excel because of course we've got the scroll bar down at the bottom. Everybody knows about the scroll bar, but I have to go down there. I have to find my mouse. I have to go all the way down to the bottom in order to use my scroll bar. So I'm going to click my wheel and now I can easily scroll over to the right or to the left as I want. As I said, the further you get away from this spot, see how slowly it's going right now. I'm just very teeny tiny part away, but as I go further away, it scrolls much faster. To get out of this, of course, you just click the mouse wheel again and you're out. I'm going to do Control Home, and that will get me back to the very beginning of my worksheet. So that's a couple of things about freezing panes and also using my mouse wheel. We talked a little bit about this last week, which is wrapping text. As you can see, all of these headings are on one line. And do they really need to be on one line? You know, our sales channel here, that's a wide column for a small piece of information, as is order priority. What if I were to tell it to wrap the text in here? I would then be able to make these columns much narrower because I never want to see your worksheet. And if you send me a worksheet and it's got things like total on one line and cost on the other, I'm not going to be a happy camper. What you really needed to do was just type, as we did here, total cost in one cell, and then change the width of the cell so that you only can see that in one cell. This is particularly important last week when we were talking about pivot tables, because it only picks up the bottom row of text as a label. And so you might have a lot that say sales, 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 when one is monthly sales, quarterly sales, yearly sales, but you can't appreciate that because it's not all in one cell. So lesson learned. Let's see if we can use the wrapping text. Okay. Something I'd like to show you is selecting information. If we wanted to select this table, it's very easy to hold down the mouse and drag, but that is probably the worst method of selecting. It's imprecise. Maybe I lost track of it. I let go at the wrong time, and now I have to start all over again. I don't want to take the fill handle because that's going to do something wonky, and I don't want that to happen. So when I'm selecting a large amount, I use the click, shift click method. I click in the first cell that I want to select. I scroll on down. I hold down on the keyboard. Right now I've got the shift key held down, and I'm going to click in the last cell. So the idea of this is that you click in the first cell, you hold down the shift key and click in the last cell. This actually would allow me, if I held down the shift key, to say, well, I don't really need that much. I think I'd like to select it through here. It's always starting from the first cell, and it's going to the last cell that I click on as long as I hold down the shift key. So this allows me, if I didn't select enough and I now want to select a little bit more, I can hold down the shift key and select more. Oh, I really meant to select all the way over here. Not a problem. With the shift key, I can do that from click to shift click. If I only want to select specific cells in my document, I can certainly click on them, but when I click on the next one, the first one disappears. What if I wanted to select 4 non-adjacent cells here? I mean, it's easy for me to click, hold down the shift key and click and select a range, but I just want to select non-adjacent cells. In that case, I'm using the control key. If I click on a cell, hold down the control key and click and click and click and click, I can select non-adjacent cells. Why would I want to select non-adjacent cells? Well, I did this just the other day because there were some numbers. I actually wanted to find out what the sum of these numbers were, but I didn't want to create a formula. So I just clicked on the cells that I wanted the sum of, and then I look down at the bottom of my screen. I hope you can see this. Down at the bottom of my screen, as I'm selecting cells, Excel is actually doing some calculations for me. This, when it was introduced many years ago, is called Sum on the Fly. That's what it was called when it first came out. Maybe they're still calling it that. But when I have more than one cell selected, because if I only have one cell selected, there is no need for that. As soon as I have more than one cell selected, whether they be contiguous or whether they be non-contiguous, it is averaging them, finding the count of them, finding a numerical count rather than a text count, and finding the sum or total of these. If you right mouse click in this area of your worksheet, you're going to see that you could also add, if you wanted, the min, the highest, the lowest number, excuse me, or the max of these. If I turn that on, then those are statistics that are now available to me. But this sum on the fly, I use it all the time. Somebody comes into your office and you say, or they say, I just need to know, what were your sales in the last week? Oh, well, I don't have a formula for that, but let me just select, these are last week's sales. Let me select that. And now I can see, here's the sum of them, 39,503. And you have a discussion point from that. So sometimes we need to get the shirt quantity. Yeah, easy peasy. You just don't need a formula for it, right? You just wanted to see right now what it looked like. So you just select some cells and check the bottom of your screen. That is called Sum on the Fly. Okay, we're going to be working with a different worksheet. This is a worksheet that has some of our sales on it. We're in the fruit beverage sector. And so we've got some fruit beverages, some iced teas, and some iced coffees. How did I get it to some? Well, it does it automatically. And if I want to show more than what's here, I just right click on that area. And you see, I have an opportunity to turn on and turn off what the sums are displayed there. Okay, moving on. So let's say that this is your worksheet and you've put in some numbers and now you need to put in some formulas. What I'm going to do, how could I do this? What are some of my options? Well, I could come here, I could click on the auto sum and I could take the fill handle and I could fill that across and I could come over here and I could also put in the sum function and fill it down, I mean, all of that is doable, but I'm going to undo that because there's a better way of doing this. If I have a group of numbers and I know that I want them summed across and I want them summed down, I just select the numbers. I select one extra row, at least one extra row, because the totals are going to go into the bottom row, and at least one extra column. And I'm going to then click once on the auto sum button here on my home tab. And ta-da, in one click, it adds the sum function because it knows by the way I selected this. Now watch again. I should do my shift click, shouldn't I? Watch again, I've selected an extra row and an extra column, one click on the auto sum button, and it has added them. One more time for the West Coast. I've selected an area. I'm clicking once on the auto sum button. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? One click and I've got all of these formulas in. Well, that's amazing, but I want you to see one more thing that I think you'll find is even more impressive than that. So you can see that I've got a grand total here. What I probably would do, did I select them all? 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay. What I would probably like to do here is put in a sum function that takes the 3 totals and adds them. I could certainly do that. And again, take my fill handle, my new best friend, the fill handle, and I could calculate that. But based upon what you saw a moment ago, what do you think about this? I've got one extra row and one extra column selected. And when I click on the auto sum button, whoa, with one click, why does it keep scrolling so fast? With one click, it has put in our yearly totals and it has put in our grand totals. Kim is offering one-on-one lessons. You're taking over my job, Kim. Thank you. All right, so let's look at the formula that is here. It equals the sum of B25. In fact, I'm going to double click on this cell so that it highlights for me the cells that are being used in the formula. I've double clicked and you can see that it equals the sum of B25, B19, and B11. And it did that automatically based upon the other information, the other data that was selected. All right, so that's a nice, easy way to fill in a lot of formulas. While we're on this worksheet, I'd like to do something else. I'd like to show you something else, and it's called Auto Outline. For this, I'm going to go to the Data tab. And from the Data tab, all the way over on the right, it's called Outline. It's the Outline group. And based upon the formulas that I have in here now, I'm going to ask it to auto outline. So I've gone to the Data tab, I'm here in the outline group. I'm clicking next to group and auto outline. And what that does is it looks at the formulas that you've got and it supplies you automatically with these outlining features. So what does an outline mean? Well, you remember in English class, if they're still teaching outlining, in English class, we had to come up with a major topic and subtopics underneath that. Well, that's the same thing that we're talking about here in our worksheet, that you can see that, for instance, January, February, March are a subtopic, as it were, of first quarter. And above that, there's a little line with a dash. And if I click that line, what that does is it collapses January, February, March. Maybe for this purpose, you know, I've already looked at those numbers. I'm not focusing on them right now. Maybe for this purpose, I don't really need to see January, February, March, or April, May, and June. I'll just focus on the quarterly totals and look at the rest of the year. So you can use these little dashes to collapse or expand the outline. Perhaps you're using hide columns to do this, but this is a much more elegant way of doing it. And you're not worried about bringing them back again. All you have to do is click on the pluses. You'll also notice that down on the left side of your screen, we've got some of these. So if I click on it, you see that's just my fruit beverages and their total. I don't necessarily need to see all of this data. It really helps when you're working with a very large worksheet that you're collapsing part of it. I don't need to focus on that. I can see, and of course, is it not true that it is true that when you print this, it's only going to print the visible information. So it makes it much, much easier for you when you're working with it. You'll also notice there's a little 1, 2, 3 here in the upper left corner, 1, 2, 3 also here. And that is a easy way of collapsing all of the level 3s. If I click on the number 2, do you see how quickly I'm able to just see the quarterly totals? And of course, if I click on the number 1, I'll just see the yearly totals. I can bring these easily back again by clicking on the appropriate numbers. And over here on, again, on the left side, if I click on the number 2, then all of the subtotals are hidden in the number 1. So with just a couple of clicks, I can see the grand total of this worksheet instead of, that is brilliant, Irma. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, so this is really great, I think. If you wanted them, if you're not keen on this and you didn't want to see this any longer, you can go to, again, the data tab and ungroup or clear outline. This version of Excel that I'm working with, of course, is 365, but I want you to know I've been teaching Excel for more than 30 years, and this is a feature that's been around, I want to say, for 25, 20 years. So it's not a new feature. In fact, nothing that I show you today is specifically in 365. This is on all of the versions that you're working with. You just may not be aware of it. Okay, I'm going to work with a worksheet that has a couple of sheets in it. I've changed my screen, so tell me, can you still see? I think I need to stop sharing and start it again. Vacation time. Okay. Okay, so I want you to see that this is a worksheet that actually has many tabs on it. January, February, March. Do you see where I'm looking in the lower side of your screen, lower left corner of your screen? So this is actually a vacation schedule that we're working with here. January, February, March, not all of these sheets got named. So we're going to double click on the little sheet tab. and I'll type in October. This would be nice if a fill handle did this, but it doesn't. So I'll double click November, double click December, and double click totals. So this is set up so that every sheet right now has everybody's name on it. You can see that every sheet looks exactly the same. I'm going to go into something called the group edit. I'm sorry, Arturo, I'm not going to be talking about forecasting today, but that's a good topic for another session. I'm going to be working on these sheets, and I actually need all of these sheets to look alike. I need all of these sheets to have the dates going across, and I would like all of these sheets to be in the same format. So instead of working on one sheet at a time, which is one method of doing it, not the best, we're going to actually work with a group of sheets. I have clicked on the January sheet, just one click on the January sheet, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key. We've seen this before, haven't we? I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to click on the December sheet. This now is called the group edit. And if you're taking notes, which I really hope you are, I know I'm going kind of fast, but if you're taking notes, I really want you to get down the title, the name that I'm giving these things, so that you can then later on look for it and see how to do it. This is called the group edit. So right now I have more than one sheet selected. Do you see how they're white? With the exception of the total sheet, I don't have that selected. So I'm actually going to put in the days of the month here. Oops, not that way. I think we'll have the days of the month going across, 1 and 2. This is where my little fill handle comes into play. I'm going to select a bunch of columns and actually make them much narrower because this is an attendance sheet. And what I need to know on this is how many hours on a particular day someone has taken off for vacation. So we're keeping track of the attendance. And I need to bring this over to 31 because that's the largest number of days in the month. Even though I know some months don't have 31 days, I really want to keep these so that they are the same. So I'm going to click there and come on back. Shift click on B, click, click. There we go. So this change that I made, putting in the days of the week or the dates, this now has changed on all of my worksheets. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit, make it a little bit wider so it's not quite so tight. This change, if I click on February, I'm on February, on March, April. So on February, I think what I'm just going to do is hide the columns that I don't need. I really want them to, did I not say hide? I did not say hide. I just want to hide the column so it's 28 days, but I want AG to actually be my total. Oops, you know what? I'm going to undo that because I accidentally did that to all the months, and some months I can't do that to. I will figure out which ones I need to do that to later. But I'm going to put in a formula right now in AG, and this formula is going to be the sum function. So I'm on my home tab. Here's my auto sum. I'll highlight the cells that that will be the formula for. I should do my click shift click. Okay, and enter. Okay, so of course it's 0, and I'm going to use my fill handle and fill that down. So although I was looking at that moment on the February worksheet, no, why did May not? Oh, because I had zoomed in. Okay, right, I had zoomed in on that. So all of my worksheets are exactly the same. So this is called the group edit. Once you're in the group edit and want to get out of the group edit, you have two ways of doing it depending upon the number of sheets that you have selected. If I had all of my sheets selected, I could just click on any sheet other than the active sheet. The active sheet is the one with the line underneath it. Or in this case, I don't have them all selected. So if I click on one that is not selected, it will automatically get me out of the group edit. So this is where I could go into February and hide these extra days. 30 days, half September. I'm going to hold down the control key. September, 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. Okay. So I've got those 4 selected. And on those, I'm going to hide it. So how cool is this? You know, instead of going into each of these individually, I have an opportunity to go into the group edit and make a change that's global, that's changing in so many of our worksheets. So the idea now is that if I put in some vacation time for someone, it will just appear in that 1 month, because now I'm no longer in the group edit. If we get a new employee, I would need to go back into the group edit. So I'm going to click on January. And this time I'm actually going to click all the way on totals because I want that new employee added. And this employee's name is Frederick. So let me OPQR. Okay, I'm going to insert a new row. It's inserted a new row in all of these. James Frederick. And I'll take my fill handle and fill the formula down. And it's a beautiful thing. When I click on any tab other than the January tab, I am out of the group edit. So this is a situation where you have many sheets. You want them all to be the same. You want them all to be, you can also hide columns with Control Z. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts that you could be using. Certainly. Thank you. Okay. I'm looking at I have a little outline here. I just want to make sure that I am covering all of the things that I want to talk about. Actually going to close this and not save changes. Don't save. Okay. Let me share again. And I'll go back to sharing this screen. Okay. Something that you often have the need to do is if you create a worksheet in one book, one document, and you realize that you'd like to consolidate your sheets into one document. It's actually very easy to do this. I hope that you can see it. I've got a couple of documents open. If I put my mouse on my Excel icon at the bottom, you can see that I've got 2 documents open. The one I'm looking at is sample files, and the other one is yearly beverage sales. You can't see. Thank you. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay, Claudia or someone, anyone? Okay, good to go. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do is we're going to see, yes, yep, the spreadsheets that I'm working on are going to be coming with your email, and you'll be able to practice. So most of the time you're looking at one worksheet. I'm going to go to the View tab. And from the View tab, I'm going to choose Arrange All. And I hope you're going to be able to see this. When I click on Arrange All, it says, well, how would you like to arrange them? Would you like to arrange them horizontally so that one is at the top of the screen and one is at the bottom, or vertically, or cascading? For my purposes, I would like them to be vertical. And I'm not going to have windows of the active workbook. That's something a little bit different, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So I'm going to say vertical and OK. And hopefully you can see two screens side by side. I suspect you cannot. Let me stop sharing and share screen. We cannot. That's what I thought. Okay, a limitation, I think, is that you can only see one screen at a time. I've got two screens open side by side. And if I wanted to bring the sheet from the other document, okay, I apologize that you can't see this, but there are two windows side by side, and I can see all of the sheets in both documents. And if I wanted to combine them, I actually just take the sheet, and you'll see it in a moment as I drag it over. I'm dragging the little sheet tab from one document and dragging it into the other. This part, I think you probably can see. Okay, so this document now has an additional sheet in it. That document was removed. Keep that in mind, that document was removed from that original document. If you wanted it to remain in the original document, then you would have held down the control key as you were dragging. So it's easy to move sheets from one document to another document. Okay. One thing that I'd like to show you is something called conditional formatting. This is formatting that's available to you from your home screen. The conditional formatting, again, this is a feature that was added many, many years ago. It allows you to visualize the relevant size of numbers using various options. For instance, you can use data bars. And so superimposed on the numbers are data bars to show you which numbers are higher than others. Obviously, a higher number would have a longer data bar. You can also use color schemes if you want. And so a color scheme is going to have hot numbers and cold numbers, depending upon what the relative size of the number is. So it's really looking at all of the numbers that you have selected, and it's applying a color scheme to it. Didn't mean to click. Would these colors print out? Yeah, they would. As would these crazy little icons. As you can see, these take up some room. So I'm going to have to make that column wider, but it also will show you trends. So maybe this does not, maybe these numbers are not so appropriate for a trend, or you'd really have some more numbers. Let's see if we had some sales records. Here we've got some sales records. So these numbers are going to have a little bit more of an impact for you to see the data lines, because now you can see, now visually, you can kind of pick out what's going on here. In addition to the conditional formatting that's here, you can actually create your own rules, because you may want it to highlight all of the cells that exceed a particular value, let's say. Here we are. Format only values that are above or below an average. And you could ask it to do that. Or only the top and bottom. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways that you could do this. Only equal to or below. We want to find out our low performers. 2 or below and okay. It didn't give me an opportunity to put in what the format only top or bottom rank values. Well, I don't want to spend time on this, but check it out. You can actually highlight just numbers that meet some criteria that you determine. So it's easy for you to see those. Okay, I see that it is 10 minutes to the hour. I don't think I'm going to be able to show you all of the items that I had hoped that we would cover today, but we are pretty close to closing it out. I see I have one question, not seeing the mouse. Okay, that was hopefully an old question, and that's been done. How did it decide red, green, or positive, negative? It has to do with the range of numbers that you have selected and what the high is and what the low is. So as a result, it then determines based upon that which are the bottoms and which are the lows, which are the bottoms and which are the highs. And that's very much seen when we use this formatting so that it just shows that. Okay. All right. I think I've kind of run out of time. I thank you for coming. So just to reiterate, you are going to be getting 3 things. You're going to be getting the recording of this webinar. You're going to be getting the slides, these helpful slides that I have created for you. Let me just put that in my slideshow and stop sharing. There's all the slides that you're going to be getting, including topics that I haven't finished talking about. Hopefully now you can see the slides. I encourage you to visit our website, score.org/Manasota. Share screen. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. There we go. There we go. Okay. There you can request a mentor and look at our profiles. You can look at other workshops and do searches for our items. I just wanted to tell you that you are going to be getting a survey. If you could take time and fill in the survey, it would be great. There are 2 important questions. One is that you're going to rate the webinar from 1 to 10. 9 10s are great, less than that, and not so good. So I hope that you feel that you have spent a good 45 minutes with me, that you've learned enough, that you think that this has value. I want to also send you all something, which is a list of previous webinars that I put on relative to Excel. Of course, last week we had creating pivot tables. The week before that, or a few weeks before that, was analyzing data in Excel. And something that we had last year was kind of a basics. So you'll see that there's some overlap in some of these, but I really want to encourage you to look at some of these other webinars. They were popular at the time and we really appreciate it. So are there any further questions? I don't see any further questions. I'd be happy to answer any if you had some. Let me see, I brought up the valuable. Okay. Okay, somebody found a list of keyboard shortcuts. That's great. If you copy and paste that from the chat, you'll have those. You can always do a search for yourself. I've been using Excel for at least 25 years and I still learn quite a few things today. Thank you, Melanie. That's my goal. And thank you, Paula. All right, well, I see no further questions and we are at the top of the hour. I thank you all for coming. Thank you all for supporting. So thank you all for coming. Look forward to getting the worksheet, the slideshow, and the video recording. So bye all. Thank you for coming.